The $27.7 million decision that changed everything. The NBA may have just witnessed the first move in a plan nobody was supposed to see coming. Draymond Green walked away from nearly $27.7 million in guaranteed money, and less than 24 hours later, reports surfaced that LeBron James was preparing to leave Los Angeles. Two decisions. Two future Hall of Famers. One timeline that feels too precise to be a coincidence. At this stage of his career, Draymond should be protecting every guaranteed dollar. Instead, he created financial flexibility for Golden State at the exact moment. LeBron's future became the biggest story in basketball. Publicly, the explanation sounds simple. Help the Warriors improve and make one final championship push besides Stephen Curry. But behind that explanation is a more dangerous possibility. What if Draymond did not opt out only to bring LeBron to Golden State? What if he opted out so he could follow LeBron wherever he goes? That question exploded after the two stars reportedly spent time together at an undisclosed location while LeBron considered his next destination. This was not a random podcast appearance. It happened while teams across the league were preparing for one of the most dramatic free agency decisions in years. Golden State wants to believe Draymond is sacrificing for the franchise that drafted him and celebrated 4 championships with him. But rival contenders may offer LeBron something the Warriors cannot guarantee: a clear road to one final title. If LeBron chooses another city, Draymond will face the defining decision of his career. Does he stay loyal to Curry and the only team he has ever known, or leave everything behind to chase one final ring beside his closest friend? Comment where you are watching from and subscribe now. Press 1 if you believe Draymond is trying to bring LeBron to Golden State, or press 2 if you believe he is preparing to follow LeBron somewhere else. Why Draymond walked away from $27.7 million? Walking away from guaranteed money is never casual in the NBA, especially for a veteran near the final stage of his career. That is why Draymond Green's decision felt bigger than a normal contract move. He was not injured, traded, or forced out. He chose to surrender security, and the timing made the league suspicious. The public explanation was flexibility. By declining the option, Draymond could sign a longer deal at a lower annual salary, giving Golden State room to reshape the roster. On paper, it looked like another team-first sacrifice from a player who had spent his career helping Stephen Curry and the Warriors win. But teams do not create flexibility without a target. The biggest target was LeBron James. If Golden State reduced Draymond's yearly number, it gained more options to build a deal around LeBron. The path would still require salary moves, exceptions, and sacrifices, but the opt-out was the first action that made the dream seem possible. There was also another benefit. Free agency protected Draymond. He was no longer locked into one team while LeBron controlled the offseason. If LeBron selected Cleveland, Miami, Philadelphia, or another contender, Draymond could listen. That changes the meaning of the sacrifice. Maybe he gave up money to help Golden State. Maybe he did it to chase another championship. Or maybe he realized his value was no longer tied only to the Warriors. His defense, leadership, toughness, and relationship with LeBron could help almost any contender. The key is that Draymond did not close one door. He opened several. That freedom gave him leverage with Golden State and every contender watching LeBron. Once the option disappeared, the Warriors' future became connected to a decision being made by a superstar who had never worn their uniform. LeBron ends the Lakers era. LeBron James did not leave Los Angeles because the game had passed him by. He was not pushed out, and his body had not forced him to stop. After 8 seasons, he simply believed the final chapter of his career had to be written somewhere else. When LeBron arrived in 2018, the Lakers had spent years outside the championship conversation. He restored relevance, delivered the franchise's 17th title in 2020, helped win the first NBA Cup, and made every season feel important again. That made his exit more powerful. This was not a quiet farewell from a fading star. LeBron was still scoring, creating, rebounding, and controlling late-game possessions. His age made those performances more remarkable, not less valuable. But the Lakers were no longer clearly built for one final championship run. The West had become deeper. Younger teams were faster and more flexible. Every season required LeBron to carry more responsibility while the margin for error disappeared. So he made the decision before the decision was made for him. A return to Cleveland would create a final homecoming. Miami could reconnect him with championship history. Philadelphia, Denver, Minnesota, or Golden State could offer a new challenge. Every option shaped a different ending. And suddenly, Draymond's opt-out looked different. Before LeBron's exit became public, Draymond had already discussed the possibility that retirement was near. At first, Those comments sounded like analysis. After the contract decision, they sounded like information. Maybe Draymond knew the Lakers chapter was closing. Maybe he knew LeBron wanted one more serious chance to win. And maybe he understood that if he wanted to be part of that final run, he could not remain trapped inside a contract with no flexibility. LeBron ended one era in Los Angeles. Without announcing it directly, he may also have started the final test of Draymond Green's loyalty to Golden State. The meeting nobody could explain. Then came the detail that turned speculation into something more serious. Draymond Green and LeBron James were reportedly spending time together at an undisclosed location while LeBron considered his next destination. The location was hidden, the purpose unexplained, and no announcement followed. But the timing was impossible to ignore. Draymond had just walked away from guaranteed money. LeBron had opened the door to leaving Los Angeles. Now they were together, while franchises waited for an answer that could change the championship race. This was more than a friendly dinner during a normal summer. LeBron was deciding where to spend what could be his final NBA season. Draymond was deciding whether the only franchise he had ever known remained the best place to finish his own career. Their futures were moving together, and the conversation may have been about far more than friendship. Golden State had reason to believe Draymond was recruiting LeBron. He knows the system, the locker room, and the pressure of playing beside Stephen Curry. Nobody could explain that environment better, but the meeting could also have worked in reverse. What if Draymond was asking LeBron where they should go together? A contender adding both veterans would gain leadership, defensive intelligence, playoff experience, and two players desperate for one final title run. That possibility made the Warriors vulnerable. For years, Draymond had been the emotional center of the dynasty. Curry was the superstar, but Draymond organized the defense and connected everything around him. Losing him would remove part of Golden State's identity. Nobody could prove what was discussed. Yet one fact remained. Draymond and LeBron were not watching the offseason from a distance. They were together in the middle of it, with enough influence to reshape several franchises before either man signed a contract. Golden State's impossible super team dream. The most explosive version of Golden State's plan sounded almost impossible. Stephen Curry, LeBron James, Draymond Green, and Anthony Davis on the same roster. Curry would stretch the floor. LeBron would control the offense and attack mismatches. Draymond would organize the defense. Davis would protect the rim and give the Warriors the size they had often lacked. If healthy, that group could frighten the league. But building it would require more than friendship. Golden State would need to solve a salary structure already under pressure. Contracts would have to be moved. Players and draft assets could be sacrificed. Veterans might need to accept less money. The front office would be betting its future on an aging core with almost no room for injury or decline. That is the difference between a dream and a plan. LeBron can still dominate, but he cannot carry the same workload forever. Curry remains dangerous, but every season becomes more precious. Draymond's leadership matters, yet his physical style demands enormous energy. Davis offers championship talent, but availability would remain part of every conversation. The attraction is obvious. Few teams could match the intelligence of that group in a playoff series. They know how to control pace, target weaknesses, and survive when games become slow and physical. But one injury could destroy everything. That is why LeBron may not see Golden State as the safest destination. The names are legendary, but the roster around them could be thin. The Western Conference would leave almost no margin for error. For Draymond, the plan could be the perfect ending. He would stay beside Curry, bring in his closest friend, and chase another title without abandoning the franchise that made him famous. The problem is that Golden State cannot promise the dream will happen. If the front office fails, Draymond must decide whether loyalty is worth more than the opportunity waiting somewhere else. The six-team war for LeBron. Once LeBron entered the market, the league began moving around him. Cleveland, Miami, Philadelphia, Denver, Minnesota, and Golden State. Each offered a different version of the same promise. One final chance to compete for a championship. Cleveland carried the strongest emotional pull. It was home, the place where LeBron began and later returned to deliver the most important title in franchise history. A third chapter would complete the circle, but emotion alone could not decide the basketball fit. Miami offered history and structure. LeBron already understood the culture, expectations, and leadership. A return would revive memories of the most dominant period of his career. Philadelphia could sell him on an immediate path through the East. Denver offered intelligence and an elite offensive system that could reduce his workload. Minnesota offered youth, defense, and athleticism. Golden State offered Curry, Draymond, history, and the possibility of creating the league's most famous veteran core. Every destination changed Draymond's future. If LeBron chose Golden State, Draymond's sacrifice would look brilliant. If LeBron selected another contender, The idea that Draymond might follow him would become impossible to dismiss. Teams pursuing LeBron could suddenly realize that signing one veteran might create access to another. That made Draymond part of the recruiting war, even though he was not the main prize. His defense could help Cleveland, his toughness could fit Miami, his passing could support Philadelphia, his intelligence could thrive in Denver, his leadership could strengthen Minnesota. Almost every contender on LeBron's list could create a role for him. The race was no longer only about where LeBron wanted to play. It was also about which team could offer the strongest final chapter for two veterans whose decisions had become connected before the league fully understood what was happening. Would Draymond really leave the Warriors? For more than a decade, Draymond Green and the Warriors have been almost impossible to separate. He became the emotional engine of a dynasty, the defensive voice behind 4 championships, and the teammate trusted to challenge Stephen Curry, coaches, opponents, and the front office. That history makes the idea of him leaving feel unnatural. Golden State drafted him when few believed he could become a star. The organization gave him a role where intelligence and intensity mattered more than traditional measurements. He helped transform a talented team into a championship machine, but loyalty becomes complicated when winning stops. The dynasty has aged. The roster is no longer deeper or faster than the competition. Every season raises the same question. Is there still a realistic path to another title? If Draymond believes the answer is no, staying becomes an emotional choice rather than a competitive. That is where LeBron changes everything. Joining him elsewhere would not mean Draymond hated Golden State. It could mean he refused to spend the final years of his career protecting memories instead of chasing new ones. Still, leaving would carry a heavy cost. Warriors fans could view it as abandonment. Curry could lose the teammate who understood his game better than anyone, and Golden State's identity could disappear overnight. He would also be taking a risk. LeBron's new team might not fit. Age, injuries, chemistry, and pressure could turn the final chase into disappointment. That is why the decision is bigger than money. Draymond must choose between familiarity and possibility, between protecting the dynasty's ending and creating a new one. For the first time, the most important team in his future may be whichever team gives him the strongest reason to believe the story is not finished. Friendship, loyalty, or business. The deeper the story goes, the harder it becomes to separate emotion from strategy. Draymond Green and LeBron James have built a relationship beyond normal NBA respect. They competed in championship series, shared major stages, developed business connections, and became close enough that Draymond speaks about LeBron's career with unusual confidence. That friendship is real, but real friendship can still create business opportunity. The moment Draymond declined his option, his value changed. He was no longer simply an aging defender under contract. He became a recruiting tool for Golden State, a possible partner for LeBron, and a veteran whose decision could influence the league's most important free agent. That gives him leverage. If the Warriors believe Draymond is essential to landing LeBron, they have more reason to keep him involved. If other contenders believe he could follow LeBron, they may prepare roster space. Every rumor strengthens the idea that Draymond remains important. LeBron benefits too. Draymond can evaluate Golden State honestly, explain Curry's personality, and judge whether the Warriors still have enough structure to win. If LeBron chooses another team, Draymond could become a second veteran leader capable of sharing defensive and emotional responsibility. So, is this loyalty or business? It may be both. Draymond can genuinely care about LeBron and still understand how the relationship improves his position. He can remain loyal to Curry while questioning whether Golden State can compete. He can sacrifice guaranteed money while creating freedom for himself. NBA decisions are rarely driven by one motive. Money, friendship, pride, legacy, family, and winning exist at the same time. Draymond is choosing between different versions of loyalty: to the franchise that built him, to the friend who may offer one final run, and to his belief that his career should end with purpose instead of comfort. The 3 endings that could change everything. There are 3 realistic ways this story can end, but none of them would leave the NBA unchanged. The first ending is the one Golden State has been quietly hoping for since Draymond Green declined his player option. LeBron James chooses the Warriors, Draymond returns on a restructured contract, and Stephen Curry gets one final superstar partner for another championship run. On paper, it would become one of the most intelligent and experienced groups ever assembled. Curry would stretch defenses beyond their limits. LeBron would control the pace, create mismatches, and punish every defensive mistake. Draymond would organize the defense while connecting the stars around him. For Draymond, it would be the perfect justification. Walking away from guaranteed money would no longer look reckless. It would become the sacrifice that created one final opportunity for the Warriors dynasty. But even this dream ending comes with enormous risk. Golden State would have to solve its financial problems without destroying the depth of the roster. LeBron, Curry, and Draymond would all need to survive a demanding Western Conference season. One injury could turn the most exciting experiment in basketball into an expensive failure. The second ending is far more dramatic. LeBron chooses Cleveland, Miami, Philadelphia, Denver, Minnesota, or another contender, and Draymond decides to follow him. That would represent the emotional breakup nobody once believed was possible. Draymond would leave Stephen Curry, the Warriors, and the only NBA home he has ever known. He would trade familiarity for uncertainty and history for one final chance to win beside LeBron. Some fans would call it betrayal, others would call it courage. Draymond could argue that he had already given Golden State everything. Years of physical sacrifice, 4 championships, elite defense, leadership, and countless moments that defined the dynasty. Leaving would not erase those achievements. It would simply mean he was ready to discover who he could become outside Curry's shadow. But the pressure would follow him immediately. If he joined LeBron and the experiment failed, critics would question why he abandoned Golden State. Every Warriors victory would become a reminder of what he left behind. Every loss with his new team would fuel the belief that he destroyed his perfect ending while chasing something that was never guaranteed. The third ending may be the most uncomfortable. LeBron signs somewhere else, but Draymond returns to Golden State. In that scenario, the opt-out becomes a failed recruiting maneuver instead of the opening move of a new super team. Draymond would return to a locker room that had spent weeks hearing rumors about his loyalty. Curry would welcome back his longtime teammate, but the questions would not disappear. Did Draymond truly want to stay? Or did every other option simply collapse? Golden State would have to repair trust while convincing its veterans that another championship path still exists. Without LeBron, the front office would need a different major move. Otherwise, Draymond could find himself playing another season for a team he privately believes has reached the end of its title window. And beneath all 3 endings sits one dangerous possibility. The decision takes too long. Every day LeBron waits, other players sign. Trade opportunities disappear. Teams lose flexibility. The Warriors cannot build their roster while waiting forever for a star who may never come. Draymond is trapped between 2 identities. He is still the emotional symbol of Golden State, but he is also a free agent whose future appears connected to LeBron. He remains Curry's trusted partner, but the entire league is now asking whether that partnership has reached its final chapter. One announcement will eventually end the waiting. But no matter which team LeBron chooses, this offseason has already changed the way people view Draymond Green. For the first time, his loyalty to the Warriors is no longer treated as permanent, and once that doubt enters the story, it can never be completely removed. The price of one final championship. Every legendary player eventually reaches the moment when talent can no longer answer the most difficult questions. Draymond Green has already built a career worthy of respect. He helped transform Golden State from an exciting team into a dynasty. He became the defensive voice behind 4 championships, the emotional force beside Stephen Curry, and the player willing to perform the uncomfortable work that made everything else possible. LeBron James has already achieved more than most players could imagine. Championships, records, historic performances, and more than 2 decades at the center of the basketball world have secured his legacy. Neither man needs another title to prove greatness, but that does not mean they have stopped chasing one. That is what makes this decision so powerful. It is not simply about which uniform LeBron wears or how much money Draymond earns. It is about how 2 veterans want the final years of their careers to feel. For Golden State, the strategic lesson is uncomfortable but necessary. History cannot replace roster construction. Loyalty cannot cover defensive weaknesses, aging legs, or a lack of depth. If the Warriors want Curry and Draymond to believe another championship is possible, the front office must provide more than emotional speeches and memories of old banner. Bringing in LeBron could extend the window, but it would also create enormous risk. Golden State would be committing its remaining resources to an aging core. The reward could be another championship and one of the greatest final runs in league history. The cost could be years of rebuilding if the experiment fails. For Draymond, the decision is even more personal. Staying would protect his connection to Curry and allow him to finish his career with the franchise that believed in him. There is honor in that. Few players spend their entire careers with one organization, and fewer still help create a dynasty there. Leaving, however, would not automatically mean he lacked loyalty. Sometimes loyalty means being honest when a shared journey has reached its natural ending. Draymond has the right to decide whether comfort or competition matters more during his final season. But if he leaves, he should do it with respect. There is no need to attack the Warriors, blame teammates, or damage relationships that took years to build. The most powerful departure would be a peaceful one, an honest conversation between Draymond, Curry, Steve Kerr, and the front office about where the team stands and what each side needs. LeBron faces a similar choice. The loudest destination may not be the smartest one, A final chapter should not be built only around headlines, celebrity names, or nostalgia. He must consider health, family, chemistry, role, travel, workload, and whether the roster can realistically survive 4 playoff rounds. Cleveland could offer emotional closure. Miami could reconnect him with a familiar culture. Golden State could create basketball history. Other contenders could give him a younger supporting cast and a clearer path to the final. There is no perfect answer. The larger lesson is that athletes are human beings before they are trade assets. They experience uncertainty, loyalty, fear, pride, and pressure. Fans can debate their decisions without turning disagreement into hatred. Maybe Draymond successfully brings LeBron to Golden State. Maybe he follows his friend to another contender. Maybe the two legends decide that their final chapters should remain separate. Whatever happens, the strongest ending will not be defined only by championships. It will be defined by honesty, gratitude, respect, and the courage to accept that every great basketball era eventually changes. Subscribe to the channel, share this video with another NBA fan, and hit the like button if you want more major NBA stories. Comment 1 if Draymond should remain loyal to Golden State, 2 if he should follow LeBron, 3 if LeBron should complete his career in Cleveland, or 4 if the Warriors should risk everything for one final championship.